Hey, thank you for coming. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Glenn Badge. I'm the founder of Thrive After 50. Thrive After 50 is a website designed to live boldly, vibrantly, and passionately. So you have to tune in to sometimes you haven't seen it. I'm also a certified high performance coach and a certified personal trainer. And thank you for taking the time out to be here with me tonight. This is my second live. The first one was really quite a mess. Hey, Chris, you're up early. It was kind of done. I should have done it vertically. It came through horizontally. Anyway, I really believe that this one will come out much better here. But thank you for taking the time out of your day here, for being here. The topic that I want to talk tonight about is embracing joy, bringing more joy into life here. And the reason I chose this topic is that joy, I know for me in the past, it was really something that was very difficult to grasp and get a hold of. I think all my life I had been looking for joy and just kept failing and failing. I had this feeling of unhappiness inside of me. And, something I've learned along the way is that if I am thinking something, there are other people thinking it as well. And so I'm guessing there's a lot of people out there besides just me who's had trouble finding or bringing joy into their life on a regular basis here. I've gotten better. I can still always get better, but I've come a long way since I've kind of redid my life here. So anyway, I guess my question to you is, what brings you joy? Do you know what brings your joy? My experience shows me that most people know what they don't want as opposed to what they do want. And that causes a lot of problems there. It's you're always focusing on, what you don't want as opposed to what you do. You're going to get usually more of what you don't want there. So that kind of causes problems. And then the world we're living in it's difficult to find joy at times because there's a lot of challenges we're going through, a lot of narcissistic corruption. I mean, don't even go there. Climate change. It just, if you tune into the news too much, that's a real joy dampener. There's no doubt about it there. And so, I guess that's one of the reasons why I stay away from the media. I still, check things out there, but joy is important to me. Joy is important to me, and it really has changed my life, as I'll talk about it more. But I want to ask you, are you having difficulties with joy in your life? If you had to give yourself a number from 1 to 10 on the joy scale, what would you rate yourself? I mean, with 1 just being completely listless, not even wanting to be here at times, up to 10 where you're just almost overflowing. Well, chances are we're somewhere in between that. But I think if you're a 7 or below, you've got some work to do here. And I'm glad you're tuned in if you do. And if you're a 7 and above, 8, 9, what is it that you could do to raise your joy up to even a higher level there? What could you focus on? What could you do, to raise that level? That's a good question and something to think about here. When was the last time you had a really good belly laugh there, or just got out and had a good time with friends and felt part of something? I think that's really, really important. Is there something that gets you out of bed each morning that excites you, that brings you joy? For me, I know getting outside in nature, that is really my spiritual connection there. That brings me joy. Hearing the sounds, the sights, boy, I tell you, it just brings me great joy. And I've been very fortunate because I've recognized that early on in life. And I've spent a lot of time outdoors just doing that. So, but is the spark within you not as great as it used to be? As we get older, particularly once we hit retirement or get close to that, our life changes here. And for so many of us, I feel like we've been brainwashed a little bit into what retirement really is or represents. For some of us who have been working in large companies, you get this little gold watch that, is, thank you for all your services for all these last 30, 40 years or whatever it is. And now, all right, no one's going to tell me what to do. I can go out and golf to my heart's delight. I can go travel. I can, play more with the grandkids. I mean, there's just so many things that you have on your bucket list there. But one of the big differences between now and what things used to be is that, when you hit retirement age, you got another 30 years, potentially another 30, 25, 30 years to live here. Particularly the way things are going now, particularly if you take care of your health here, so on and so forth. Well, to get onto the golf course and do any one thing for that length of time, it just isn't practical. It just isn't practical. So I think it's really, really important for us to have something that's much greater than us, a mission, because we are human beings. We are creative, imaginative. We are meant to grow and learn all the time. You don't hit retirement age and then just stop growing, and stop doing things, Again, take a couple gap years, go do everything you want to do, go travel, go overseas, go around the world, go play with your grandkids to your heart's delight, all this stuff. And I'm not saying to stop it at the end of 3 years, but I believe that there has to be something bigger that draws you in. I don't think retirement should happen at 55, 65 years old, whatever it's going to be. I think retirement should happen at 90. I really, really do. And it's just, there's been so little research and thought put into retirement. And as we get older, I mean, in the past, 100 years ago, we lived another 6 years once we retired before we died. It's just so much more different right now. And to me, it's a gift. To me, this age is a gift. It's kind of, for me, like going back to when you were 19, 20, 22, 25 years old, and you were kind of figuring out what you wanted to do in life. Some of you went to college and you knew right away what you're going to jump into, and maybe you're still doing it. Maybe you're still happy as heck. Others of us kind of fell into something or took on a job because we decided to get married and have a family. And, next thing you know, you've got multiple kids, you've got responsibilities, you got education to pay for if you choose to do that. And, 40 years have flown by. And it's just like all of these things that you had interest in as a youngster, as a young adult, suddenly just disappear. I mean, it's just like you take all your time and effort and put it into this one thing, this one job, this one occupation for the one employer. You do the best you can, you bust butts, you get your bills paid, but that's your life. That's your life. Yeah, you have other things you can do here and there, so on and so forth. But, so for me, getting to that retirement age there, when you hit 50, you got to start thinking about this stuff in advance. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? If you can make anything happen in your life, what would that be? What would you try to create? What's important to you? What bring in, and I'm going to encourage you to do whatever it is you decide upon, to do it with joy, okay? And that is so important to everything here. But, again, what is it that's really important to you? It might be, what really pisses you off, that you think is an injustice that you would like to, see change. And maybe you can set off on creating that change in some way, or using your voice. And that is something that so many of us just don't do. Again, I think we're kind of herded together to think alike, to be alike, and we kind of lose our individuality, while doing this. We forget who we are, who we really are. And that is such a shame. It's just such a shame, because we are all so unique and so gifted and so blessed. And I think that's what this talk is more about anything, I struggled with all of this stuff here. I have been a seeker all of my life. You know, I always was asking why am I here? What's my purpose? So on and so forth. You know, I got into religion. I got into the sciences. I got spiritual. I traveled a lot. I was always looking for answers. And you know, but yet I fell in that same trap I talked about earlier where, you know, I got a call after college from my father asking me to come back and help him in the restaurant business. And out of family obligation, I went back, said I'd do it for a year. You know how that goes. 16 years later, I was still there before I broke off, and then went up and opened my own restaurant for the next 15. So for 31 years, that consumed my life. And I felt like I was living someone else's life, not my own, you know. And I, be honest with you, I really didn't like who I was. And that really played on me a lot. You know, I didn't like being, you know, I was in the restaurant business there. So part of my job was to encourage people to come in, you know, and one of the hardest things for me was going up to our bar, talking to regulars there. And there's so many times I felt like saying, why are you here? You have a wife and family at home, and you're sitting here spending all your money, getting, you know, toasted. You're here 4 or 5 days a week. Go home. But I couldn't there. And I know, you know, alcohol for me, I used to indulge in it, but I know what it does to people. I know what kind of challenges that could be. So anyway, I had a real struggle with, you know, my morals, my values, all that sort of thing. So I'd say it was about 8 years ago, after my kids, I'd gotten them through college. They were out on their own. I just knew I had to change my life. And I kind of went overboard with it, I guess, from some people's perspective. From mine, it's what I had to do. But I pretty much jettisoned everything that I owned. I mean, I went through a divorce after 34 years. I sold my business, almost giving it away just to get out of it. You know, the money that I had saved up, I pretty much gambled away on the stock market, thinking I was going to be a stock trader, a day trader or something, which I got spanked on that one real bad. But, you know, in some ways I consciously and yet unconsciously did that, because I know that if I had that support of income, or this little nest egg, as you might call it there, I never would have fully embraced and taken on the challenge, you know. So in a lot of ways, I burned the ships behind me. This is something that I really, really wanted to do, and I knew myself well enough that if I didn't take these measures, I would never do it. So, and I'm still in the process. I'm still in the process, and that was about 8 years ago. But you know, it didn't happen overnight, and it just didn't happen that way. I was actually had a friend. I mean, once I got out of the restaurant business, I traveled a bit, came back. Photography is my passion. I did a lot of photography. I opened up a little studio for a season up in Michigan. And as much as I loved doing it, I just knew that it wasn't going to be financially feasible. I mean, there was days there, because we were in a little tourist town. I wasn't right on the beaten track there, but there was a couple times where I'd go 6 days in a row without making a sale. I said, I just can't do this. And long story short, at the end of the season there, I was just depressed, not knowing which way to go, what I wanted to do with my life. And as one of my journals says there, I felt like I was in a life raft out in the middle of the ocean, not being able to see land in any direction with a paddle, and not knowing which way to paddle. I just felt totally, totally lost there, to put it bluntly. And so I decided I needed to get away and think, and kind of, you know, refocus as to what I might want to do. Well, before I left, I grabbed my mother-in-law had passed a couple of years earlier, and she had just a great collection of personal development tapes on books, you know, and on book forms, you know, listening, audio. And I looked through those. I hadn't opened them in a couple of years there, and I found the majority of them were on cassette, and I didn't have a cassette player. There was only one that was on CD, and it happened to be a Tony Robbins, Unleash Your Power Within. So I said, what the heck, I'll take it. I listened to it on the way down, you know, listened to it when I got to the campground along Lake Michigan, and I'll be damned, a friend of mine who knew that the struggle I was going through called and said, "Hey, Glenn, would you be interested? I've got a Tony Robbins ticket that, you know, it's an extra one and you can have it for free. Would you be interested?" I go, "Wow, what a coincidence." I go, "Where? Where?" He said Meadowlands. I thought he said Meadowbrook, which is a place in the greater Detroit area. So I said, "Sure, sure." And he says, "Oh, by the way, it starts Thursday of next week," and this was like Saturday or something. So I had like 4 or 5 days. Well, once he hung up, I found out that it was a Meadowlands in New Jersey, just across from New York there. And I go, "Oh, shit." And anyway, my son ended up living 20 minutes away from there, so I went and stayed with him, and I still took the ticket and I went. And I'll tell you, it was a life-changing experience. It really, really was. And that's kind of where I decided to challenge myself and come up with a dream. That's where Thrive After 50 was kind of created, you know, within that next month or two, and put myself up to some physical challenges, just challenging myself all around the bases here. But it's been a long journey since then, over those 8 years. It really has. It's a process. It really, really is a process. But I have something right now that is bigger than me. It's much, much larger than me. Okay. For me to even be doing these lives right now is scary for me. It's taken, you know, I've kind of I'm stepping more into the shoes of the person that I want to be and embracing it, as opposed to being scared of it, which was where I was for so long. So I'm excited about what I'm doing here, and I hope that you guys find something, you know, to grasp on all this too here as we go along here. So anyway, that was the start for me. I've met many people. I have found mentors along the way. And for me, reaching out and helping people, particularly at the retirement age, brings me joy. It really does. If I can be out helping people, that makes me feel good. It really makes me feel good. You know, everything is different. It's kind of like I said here. It's a new time and age here. We can't just look at that retirement as a time to just stop living and doing leisure activities the rest of your life. You're just, you know, if you're not growing, you're dying, is what it comes down to. That's kind of like a law of nature. So, and so many of us start dying at that time, mentally, emotionally, you know, in your relationship, in your lust for life. And so that's something I really want to encourage you to do there. And, you know, as far as solutions that I might be able to share with you as to what, you know, steps you could take to start finding it yourself, I think it really involves a great shift in what happens to you. You know, there's a lot of sucky things that happen to us, okay? And we can get drawn into that suckiness and have that deeper spiral down and start thinking, wow, life is just so unfair, you know, or, you know, look at the shit show that's happening to me, or, you know, if it's because of this person or that person that this is happening to me, I don't deserve this. Well, something about growth is that we learn greatest from the challenges that we encounter. And for me, that's been one of the greatest shifts I've been able to make, is to view anything that happens to me from a different perspective, you know. And I ask myself, what can be great about this? Okay, what can be great about this? And I'm sure some of you have had the same experience where, you know, for example, maybe a relationship ends for you. You think it's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. But, you know, 6 months down the road, you meet someone, and long term, you go, God, that was one of the best things that happened to me, even though it didn't feel that way at the times. Well, that's kind of the attitude I think that's important to take, because we really don't know how things are working. You know, I sometimes compare, you know, our great universe. You know, take a wall that's, you know, 20 foot long and 8 foot high or so, and you look at one little outlet in there, I kind of think of that outlet as being the total amount of knowledge that we as human beings have. And the rest of that is stuff that we're not even aware of or how it works there. So, what you think, what you feel, we just don't know. So having good intentions, I think, what you put out, you get back. So having joyful thoughts and a view that this could be a very good thing is a great way to go. Sometimes it isn't, okay? And there are, there's a guy, I want to find his name here. Oh, I don't know if I'll find it here eventually here. But a guy he's from Australia. He was born without arms and legs. And it was I think it had to do with his genes. It was just the way he was born here. But this guy is an international speaker right now. He goes around giving motivational speeches to people there. With people with disabilities, and his specialty is finding joy and what's great about life, and what life's all about there. So even if you got something really bad that's happening to you, it doesn't mean that it's okay to just go to hell. Let yourself go to hell. So that's shifting your view, I think, is really, really important, and again, finding that curiosity you had. If you can go back to when you were, again, a youngster or a young person, adult, and had multiple interests, I had a person tell me one time, what was it that you used to do in your room when no one else is around that brought you joy, and the person said to me, that's probably a clue as to what brings you joy, or what is really, really important to you. And I think that's pretty cool, because I remember being in my room just curious of, the solar system, building rocket models, playing with blocks, I'm just all kinds of things there. But I bring that curiosity back is really important. Another really important one, I know for me, was learning to love yourself again. And I hesitantly say again, because there's many of us who still have never done that, okay? That's a very difficult thing to do. It involves forgiveness. It involves being humble. It involves being human. You really got to forgive yourself, because we are all doing the best we can. We were brought up in a society telling us the way we should be, the way we should act, what we should have. The definition of success is having money and material possessions and stuff. And I think as we've gotten older, we realize that really doesn't bring happiness. How many people do you know out there that have committed suicide that have seemingly had everything? It's shameful. It's sad. So it isn't. Success comes from within, and I think we really need to take a deep look within as to what we are, who we are, because we're all such lovely, great people. We all are unique. We all have a gift to give and a way to express yourselves here. So I really encourage you to take that time to look within, find what you're still curious about, and forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. And I know that's something I still have to constantly do on a regular basis there. And another important thing, I think, is just to slow down, okay? And appreciate and be grateful for some of the small things in life, particularly the small things in life. It could be that breeze. It could be the sound of rain falling on the leaves outside your bedroom window. It could be the breathing of fresh air, the sunshine. All that stuff's free, and it is just so life-enhancing, life-invigorating. And I know for me, that brings me great joy. It brings me great joy, and to photograph it too, of course. But what puts a smile on your face there? Let's see, what do I do now? So living in the moment, and another thing, contributing and helping others, that has been really, really important to me. There is a certain, I guess, joy, for lack of better words, that comes from helping another person step up in their life, to see them smile because you've extended a hand and helped them in some way, to get them through a roadblock, um, you know, to make their life better, and we all, as we have gone older, we have all this wealth of wisdom, life experience with us. And I think that's one of the greatest kindnesses we can do, is to reach back and try to help other people, who either are behind us, younger than us, or people at our age that, you can still help and have them step up to a greater level because you might have a gift that they don't, or something they're looking for. So those are some of the things that I think are really, really important there. And one thing I don't want to hear any of you ever say is that I'm too old to do this. I'm too old to do this. That's a frame of mind. That is definitely a frame of mind. If you can start thinking you're too old, you're going to get old. Okay, and in having movement in your life, getting out, gratitude, appreciation, all that stuff is going to help keep you young. If there's a roadblock that you're having, get help. Reach out, get a coach, find someone, get a friend. Get out and socialize, but don't. Particularly as we get older, loneliness is such a challenge for us there, and that's probably one of the number one reasons for people expiring or just kind of giving up on life, because they're lonely. They don't know what to do. I think I mentioned in my last live here that there's a 78-year-old man I just sat down and talked to for about an hour and a half, who just lost his wife in January. And this guy is totally, totally lost. He doesn't know what to do without her right now, to the point where meals have to be delivered. I mean, and yet, as we sat there and talked to this guy, he is such a gifted man. He used to make fishing poles. He showed me his collection of fishing poles that he made by hand, his Lionel train set, his collection of statues that he's had from across the world here in his travels and stuff. But yet, he's just lost the spirit of life there. So anyway, some of the most common mistakes I think that I just want to point out is doing too much, trying to do too much. Pick one thing that really brings you joy and just focus on that for a while. Quit trying to be the jack of all trades, because you get too spread out there. Have something that really grabs you and holds on to you, that you want to build on and get better at. So, and joy is a choice. It's a definite choice that we make, and it's something that needs to be done daily. Joy isn't a goal. It's not something you work toward and suddenly one day you say, okay, I have joy in my life, I'm happy. No, it's a process. It's a daily process here. So keep that in mind when you're working on things and doing anything in life. Try to bring joy to whatever it is, even if it's something that's really sucky that you don't want to be doing. What can be great about it there? So interesting. I want to say one interesting thing I want to say is that there was an Australian nurse named Bronnie Ware, who you guys might have heard this story before, but her job was to be with people in their last 12 weeks of life. And she asked them what their greatest regrets were. And the number one regret was people regretted living their life for others as opposed to living it for themselves here. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, because the last thing I want for any of you to do is be on your deathbed regretting that you didn't live your life. Okay? Live it, be yourself, bring yourself out, bring yourself up from and out from within here. Okay, and I already talked about victimizing and blaming others. That's kind of a cop-out. That's kind of anger coming up. sadness, not knowing what to do with it, and looking to, just pass blame on others here. But, we are in charge of our own lives. We're the ones who pick and choose here. So, we need to do that. Okay, here's that guy's name. It's Nicholas James Vujicic, Vujicic. I'll see motivational speaker without 4 limbs, all 4 limbs. Anyway, if you want to find him, Google handicapped inspirational speakers, and you'll see his picture there. He's got some YouTube videos that are really great there. So anyway, what can you do right now to start bringing more joy in your life? Well, I think the first thing is start asking great questions, and that might be one of them. What can I do to bring more joy into my life? There's some really famous people, Einstein being one of them, that said if he had an hour to come up with a solution with something, he'd spend 55 minutes determining what the question was and 5 minutes on the solution, and solving it there. So it's just, if you ask it, the answer will come. It may not come right away, but if you are sincerely asking the universe for a question that is important to you, that is really a well thought out question there, you will get a well thought out answer back. And it'll come at the least expected times there. It might come across through a person you meet, through a book that comes your way, through a video that happens to come out, through a magazine, through a book, and just so many different ways there. The universe works with you once you start on your path here. And I can vouch for that. I can definitely vouch for that there. So, challenge yourself, embrace your talents. If you don't really know what they are, again, get help. Ask people who know you very well what they really think you're good at there. If you were at your own eulogy, what would people be saying about you that you'd want to hear there? So, and getting out and just intermixing with the world, get out, move, do something, interact with people there. So anyway, the takeaway I want to end tonight with is that joy, again, is not an end goal. It's a place that you just reach. And it's something that you just do every day and practice at, that joy there. But I've got one quote here that is just really, really important to me that I think is really, really empowering. It actually came from the Wisdom of Sundays book by Oprah Winfrey that I read a while back. And I'm going to read that to you there. Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use me for a purpose greater than myself. Think about that. I'll read it again. Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, who I want to be, and what I can do, and use me for a purpose greater than myself. I want to thank you for coming here tonight. If you enjoyed this message tonight and think anybody else might benefit from it, please, by all means, share it with them. My plan is to do a different talk every Monday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. If you're interested at all in going more into depth, or you feel like you are struggling and hitting a roadblock that you don't know how to get through, you are welcome to go to my ThriveAfterFifty.com site, and that's 50, not FIFTY. Scroll down to the bottom, and there's a form there that you can fill out and get a free coaching session with me, and we can just see how things work out there. But anyway, I just want to thank you very much for being here tonight and taking the time out of your day. Bless you all. Bye-bye.